welcome to the Webby O'Neill channel. Thanks for coming again, Gary. We're talking ahead of the United Salford game on Wednesday night, under 21s EFL Cup. But since we last come, United have signed Donny van der Beek. What's your views on the player?
I think a really good player. I think needed a midfield player. It probably wouldn't be the one that, if you said about the type of player that I thought that United would sign or need. But I think when you just get a good player who obviously can improve the team, we've seen it with Fernandes. Yeah. I think rather than work out where they're all going to fit in, the fact that you've got the ability to have them in that midfield. And the big thing for me is with United, that I think it was maybe 3 years ago, it was like we had a non-existent midfield. Yes. And now Fred, McTominay, Matic, Pogba, Fernandes, Van der Beek, it's probably arguably is the strongest area of the team. So I think that the club have reacted and done really well in that department. I'm looking forward to seeing him play. Yeah. I do think he can play in a number of different positions. He's adaptable, and that's just something that all Ajax players have, that ability to be able to transcend different positions. They understand it from a young age. It's now that next part, the centre forward, right winger, centre back,
well,
left
that's
back.
The next one we're going on to now. Your sidekick, Mr. Carragher's wrote in his paper.
Has he?
If United signs Jadon Sancho, it could lead them to the title. Do you agree with him?
This season?
Yes.
Has he said that?
He says yes.
I don't read his articles, you see, so I wouldn't know. But I don't think, I being honest with you, I wouldn't believe a word that comes out of his mouth relating to United, because I mean, he's the type that would just say that, so it puts a bit more pressure on us. Yeah. I don't think if Sancho signs that we can win the title this season. I think
get a bit closer, maybe.
To me, this year it's about getting closer to that top two. The year after, it's about challenging for the title. However, if we were to sign a world-class centre forward, Sancho, and a world-class centre back, and Luke Shaw could stay fit, then you might be thinking, oh, there's potentially something going to happen. But them other 2 or 3 signings have to come into the building first. I think to get anything in anywhere near sort of what City and Liverpool are at this moment in time. But I don't think Ole's under pressure to win the league this season. I think he's got to get close to that top 2, and then the year after, I think, challenge.
Going on to left backs, the kid from Madrid who was on loan at Seville, Sergio Reguilón, something whatever he's called. What do you think of him? I've only seen him that one match. I thought he was half decent.
Have we signed him?
No, we've been rumours we've been offered him at 25 million.
Right.
He looked decent on the night, but that's one game, 90 minutes against us.
Yeah, I must admit, no, I haven't, and I've not seen the link, to be honest with you, with us. And to me, I think left back's important because Luke obviously has had injury issues. I think centre back's critical. And I do think at least one forward is important. I do think we need that 3 or 4 signings. I've got a feeling they're on with it. Yeah. And they're just not getting them over the line as quickly as they want. But because they're not panicking, I've not seen anything that tells me that they're not in control of it. And they're certainly not, I think, doing what they did a few years ago, which is look like they're reacting to the market rather than being in control. They look a lot more controlled than they were a few years ago, which I'm happy about. The signings are a lot better. The better age profile. They look more like they're going to be at the club for a long time rather than sort of coming in for a year or 2. So I think I'm positive just generally about United, but I just think getting those players over the line is critical. And on Sancho, it's not the fact we've not signed him, it's the fact it just continues to sort of like drag on.
Me and Tony have been out here for 3 months, started about. I mean, nothing's happened. He's not said anything about wanting to come, which he could have done if he really
can't,
wanted.
Really.
He can't, but if he wants to annoy and to come here, but it's been too quiet. There's no agent said anything or...
No, but I also think if players are sort of like hassling to get out of their club, you'd be a bit worried about the character anyway, thinking I always think when players hassle to get out of a club, you've got to worry that one day they'll hassle to get out of your club. Yeah. So I think there's always that feeling with that. And I don't think he's the type that would do that. I think he's respectful of Dortmund and what they've done for him. Yeah. So I wouldn't want to see that. I don't think he needs to do that. I'm sure behind the scenes, he's probably made his wishes known. But if the clubs can't come to an agreement, then it needs putting to bed. And look, transfers do drag on sometimes, but I just think it's going on too long now.
Just going to the Palace game on the 19th, there's talk today they're going to let fans back into the crowd, back into Old Trafford and all that. So what's your view on it now? Because he's saying up to 20,000 in for the Palace game.
Well, it's incredible because obviously, we're experiencing lockdowns locally, and Bolton, I think yesterday, was announced as the highest infection rate in the country. And yet we're talking about 20,000 fans coming back into the stadium in a few weeks. It's almost like a parallel universe where on one side it seems to be getting stricter, on the other side it seems to be getting more relaxed. Yeah. I think football and pubs have been the one thing that the government have tried to sort of bring everybody and bring everybody forward. They always know that basically, if people can go to a pub for a drink or a restaurant, if they can go to a game of football, and they've used those two things, I think, to sort of just get that little bit of spirit and mentality back in. And they do seem to be in a far more advanced position than sort of the rest of society, where you're unable to sort of go in restaurants in larger groups, or you're not able to have weddings over 30, but you can have a football match with 20,000. So there are things that conflict. I think it's been like that since day one, but I do want fans back in the stadium. It is desperate without them.
Talking about obviously fans, obviously a massive game Wednesday, Salford versus United under 23s, but also going on about the cup draw as well yesterday. Everton.
I know. But the big massive shame is that would have been 5,000 in the ground, 6,000 in the ground on Wednesday at Salford. There'd have been probably at Goodison Park the week after 30,000. And those games exist now for the players, both teams, without, particularly our players, obviously, who are obviously looking forward to the games immensely, without fans. But it is what it is. We know why we're here and what we're doing. But those games would have been fantastic experiences. They will be anyway.
We can watch the game. If you watch the game, click onto the Salford link. The link will be below.
I'm co-commentating, by the way.
Gary's co-commentating. So
Salford versus Manchester United.
It should be a good game Wednesday, though.
I think it will be, because I think that United under 23s, they'll come and they'll obviously that it's a big competition. I think in terms of growth. I know the Youth Cup is seen as the biggest competition for academies and for development players, but to play against first team players physically, I think they don't get exposed to that often. So I think it's a big game for United under 23s, as well as obviously our team who want to try and play against different players, different types of teams, and in a game whereby we've got nothing to lose. We got to the final in that competition last season, and that hopefully will still happen.
I was going to say, is that still going to happen?
Yeah, hopefully when the fans can come back into the stadium at Wembley, hopefully that'll happen next year. We need it to happen, really. There's, Portsmouth sold 50,000 tickets. I think we sold 5,000 or 6,000. So it's a lot of people that will be disappointed.
Thanks for that, Gary. Subscribe, hit the like button, give us your comments, and we'll speak to you soon. Watch more videos here. Please subscribe to the channel here. And please leave all comments down below, please.